Maya, imagine being 18 and you're just out of high school and you're given not just a job, but a career pathway in hospitality.
Man, that'd be a sweet deal.
That's what NOCHI, the New Orleans Culinary and Hospitality Institute, is doing with their HIT program, or the Hospitality Investment Training Program. And the HIT program connects young adults with customized fast-track training that leads directly to high-demand roles in New Orleans' most iconic industry, the hospitality industry.
That sounds like a great program. Who's here to talk with us about it today?
So we have none other than Gerald Duhon, the executive director, to tell us all about this program.
Great. Let's bring him out.
Gerald?
Missions by
Well, thanks so much for joining me, man. I really wanted to get right into it and really talk about, how does HIT really address the current challenges in New Orleans hospitality workforce?
Yeah, I think one of the most important things that we need to look at from a consistency standpoint, from an industry standpoint, is that, in our viewpoint at NOCHI, the culinary and hospitality world does not train well. We just have not done a really good job of that. And not everyone has the privilege or the opportunity to go to a formal culinary school. I mean, for us, it's accessible and accelerated that it's only 6 months, but not everyone's got 6 months or the tuition dollars to go and do that. And so frequently what we all know happens in the culinary and hospitality world is, here's Josh. Josh is your trainer. Follow Josh. Josh is in service. He's got other things going on. And so halfway through service, Josh has lost me, the trainee, and I'm left to fend for myself. And so there's inconsistency in trainings. There's no intentionality behind the trainings. And worse, what we feel as the person that's being trained or should be trained, I feel unseen, right? There's no investment in me. There's no intentionality to say, hey, you're important to me. I'm going to take time and I'm going to train you and try to not only make sure you understand what we do here, but help elevate your skills in the industry in general.
Right. That's wild. Yeah, I think too, because it's almost like that layer of formalizing something that has been around because it's food's been around for so long.
Forever.
And it suddenly just now we're taking the time to actually go back and address this core issue.
Right. And so we look at it that there's really 3 pieces to the training. So there's what we call functional, which is if you're a chef, it's how to julienne a carrot, right? And so sure, you can go to culinary school and learn that, or I can teach you that in a couple hours, right? No problem, the different knife cuts. So functional is 1. 2 is any type of organizational values or visioning that may be there. That could be a shared language around something. It could be a certain practice or how to do things. And then the 3rd, which is possibly the most important one, are the soft skills, right? And it can be, conflict resolution, which you may apply in the workplace, or it could also be something like, what have we done to help you with financial literacy? And maybe you feel comfortable there already, but if you're not stable in your financial literacy, it's going to make it more difficult for you to concentrate and perform when you're at work. And so as the employer, I have a selfish reason to make sure that you're financially literate, but also it's the right thing to do, right? As we invest in our workforce, for me to spend some time doing that so that then you are able to meet the goals that you have for yourself and your family. Yeah. And that's just one example. There's other soft skills that are out there, obviously. It's just the one I latched onto.
Yeah, I mean, everybody wins when you build people up like that
Of
and
course.
give them those base level skills to not only grow personally, but professionally as well.
Yeah.
I think too, we talk a lot. We've really tried to change the narrative on our campus about the word hospitality, right? And what that means. And so part of it is, we have emphasized to some folks, irritation at times, that we need to be hospitable to each other as a staff. And there's certain practices that we follow to try to do that. Because if we can't be hospitable with each other as a staff, how can we teach it or expect it? Well, the same thing is true in a workplace. You can tell almost immediately the people that are happy at work or that feel they're treated fairly at work. And I'm going to argue that that's really hospitality. And so, you can find out how engaged someone is as soon as you walk in. I read something interesting in Food and Wine yesterday that was, what's the, the interview with, with a restaurant owner up on the East Coast. What's a red flag? And the first red flag he said is when I walk in and I'm not engaged immediately and employees are in their phone. And because my argument is they're in their phone and they're like that because there's been no investment in them, and the employer is showing no hospitality towards the employee. So can we expect the employee to be hospitable to the customer if they're not treated in a way that they feel? Now, sure, we got some bad apples and some people that are just, they're not going to work out naturally. But overall, it's like, no, people should be happy to come to work and feel like, hey, work's got my back, which that's ultimately what hospitality is, because if you have a problem with your dish, right, and you don't like it and it's prepared the way that I told you it was going to be prepared and you still don't like it, like you may have made that mistake. But the way you feel good about that is if I manage that expectation or that interaction of your disappointment in a way that you then feel that I've got your back, that I've at least gone to bat for you. Maybe I didn't give you the answer you wanted, because that doesn't necessarily have to be hospitality, that it's always the right answer or the customer's always right. Sometimes the customer is wrong, right? But it needs to feel like I got your back.
Yeah, for sure. I think even with the bad apples, employees mirror what management does, and
100%.
it's,
100%.
the saying of like bad management will cause people to leave. So
100%.
like you're also able to see those bad apples quicker if you have good management, because everyone else is going to be mirroring it, and that bad apple is going to stick out even more.
Not only that, but you've got to be willing to move on from bad apples quickly, because then you demotivate the good apples, right, from doing the things that they need to do. And look, you're absolutely right. I mean, folks are going to follow whatever the general manager in a restaurant sets. I mean, I think about that. I mean, I don't always have good days. And trust me, staff feels it when I'm moping around. I mean, I know, like some will check on me. Are you okay today? Some will react differently to me than they do. Like they're looking to me as the leader of the organization to have a certain, way that I'm moving through the world. It's reassuring, but it's also, for them, it's okay. We've set this standard within our building, and I expect him to follow it too.
For sure.
Yeah. And it makes it even more interesting how this probably has been a problem for so long, and now it's just like finally someone's addressing it, and
Someone's offering a solution.
A solution to
it. What aspects of NOCHI's experience and past partnerships help you guys set up to host this workforce development? Yeah,
so I would say we kind of fell into it. If T. Martin, one of our founders, was sitting here, she would say, absolutely not. We've always planned it this way. And she's right? So there's an H in the name on purpose, right? That was intentional. And think about it. So we opened up a culinary school that's teaching culinary arts and baking and pastry. Well, where's the hospitality, right? And so the vision always was that the hospitality would come. It would be there. We will launch a hospitality certificate program, just like we have for baking and pastry and culinary arts. So I'm hoping that comes as quickly as next year in 2026. But there's always been that dream, right? It just accelerated for us a little bit quicker. We got a phone call late 2022 from Viking Cruise Lines. Hey, we've got a new property. They're only North American property, which has all kind of different rules in play than all of their other ships around the world. They've got a lot of them, but there's only one in North America. It's based out of New Orleans. And they're like, we need to train our staff. And so they came to us, and we customized a training program for them. That relationship has blossomed. We're in our third year with them.
Wow.
They've even built a mock stateroom on our campus where we teach housekeeping. They said at one point, can you do housekeeping? I'm like, I don't know, can we? And it's like, it's the dog that caught the car.
Hey.
The answer is yes, of course we can catch the car and figure out what to do with it.
Yeah.
So we did. So, and we've moved, and it's been great. But that kind of got us in there, and that's when we realized, wait a second, who is training the frontline staff? Because frequently we're investing in the upper management and then the middle management. So they're getting all the ongoing professional development. They're getting the chance to go to conferences. They're getting the chance to have, paid time off or whatever it is. What are we doing for our frontline staff? The people that are actually taking care of the customers on a daily basis. How are we training them or upskilling them in a way? And so we view the hospitality investment training, the HIT that we do, as onboarding and upskilling, as to where it goes.
Yeah, that's interesting. Because it's in a lot of ways too, I guess. And I'm curious, what experience before this was helpful? Because like you mentioned, like you jumped on this ship, as soon as, pun intended, I guess, jumped
Yeah.
on the ship to
Yeah.
like kind of get in there when the need was there.
Yeah.
But obviously, they picked you for a reason. What was kind of the experience that you had?
Yes.
To kind of add to that?
I think the fact that we were in the culinary world, right? And so, what's the saying? Great service will save bad food, but not the other way around. I don't know that that's true. It's, it's kind of a...
I was just thinking that in my head of like, I feel like we can all, I mean, I personally have been places where I'm like, this food is so good, but the service was so bad. I don't know if I will come back. So I definitely agree with that of like, there's been good service will make me come back and give you another try, but bad service, I'll be like,
Man, don't get me started on that topic. We got to keep it moving because I'll talk all day about it.
Well, there's really a third leg to it, right? Which is now becoming more important, and that is atmosphere and the feel. We were talking about that before we got going about how Michelin does their ratings, but it's really food, service, and atmosphere are the three pillars, and you need two of them, right, as you go. So I think that to answer your question directly, I think because we're in the culinary world, that just naturally says, well, service and hospitality. And so, as Viking was looking for a partner, they found a culinary school in New Orleans. Look, this can be someone who can train. They're already training. They're teaching. And so one of our goals, like, we just redid our mission statement. But, if you really boil it down, what we want to be, what NOCHI wants to be, is a resource, an educational resource for all things culinary and hospitality. And so if you have a culinary or hospitality educational need, we want you to think of us. Much like if you needed someone to come in, if you're a local TV station, and what do they do when they need, on election night, they need an expert to come in? It's a political science professor from a local university, generally speaking, who comes in and does that. Because they're viewing, the political department of Tulane or Loyola or Xavier as a resource that they want to use. Not to go too far down this train, but recently Ochsner held a brain symposium centered around memory and folks that are cognitively declining in the memory areas. And so as part of that, it was a day-long thing for caregivers. As part of that is they wanted to talk about, well, what is a brain healthy diet or recipe? And so they engaged us, and I'm like, this is exactly the kind of stuff we want to be doing, right? So they engaged us. We came in, we did a cooking demo, we provided lunch, and we provided recipes. And so here are some things that you can do, that would check those boxes. And so they viewed us as, Big Ochsner that has all these resources at their disposal. Who is the expert in culinary education? Well, we're going to go to NOCHI. And so that made me feel great when they reached out and said, hey,
really
can you
cool.
help us?
I love it.
yeah.
And before I even, because that is a good point, within the program of the hospitality investment training program, I know you mentioned a lot of different areas that this program kind of focuses on, but maybe it would be good for everyone to kind of know, how have you structured this program exactly? Yep. And, is there any kind of customization to it? Just like giving people the ins and outs of what this program's really involved in.
So it is. It's kind of, it's allowed us to expand our educational mission. Again, and not everyone can stay with us for 6 months. We love our students in white coats who can. But not everyone can. And so this has been a way. And so, we opened it up with Viking, which was really onboarding training, very specific for their product and where they are. What it's evolved into has been more. So we've partnered with Aramark Collegiate Hospitality, which has the food service contract at Tulane University. We've also now partnered with Sodexo Live that provides the workforce at the Convention Center, the Caesar Superdome, the Smoothie King Center, and World War II Museum. Wow. And so we've talked about their training and how they train and how we can add to that. So we also have a relationship with Diageo, which is one of the largest liquor manufacturers in the world, and we provide a free bartending class. And so we do that every month. We provide one. And so that's great. We have it on campus. We do it for a week. And so that's something they underwrite and do. That's part of our HIT training as we go forward. But the thing that we're working on now, the piece that we're working on now is something I'm excited about, and it will be a subscription-based service. And so for a reasonable monthly fee, we will be teaching these, let's call it these 50 things, and I brought up conflict resolution earlier. So let's say that we're teaching a 3-hour course on conflict resolution in July in October and again in December. And here are the dates that we're going to do it. And you have a subscription now. And what you're going to do is that subscription allows you to send 10 people to this.
Okay.
You pick the ones you want to go, or 25 people, who knows, right? It depending on where you are, the size of your company, and what so you can then send folks in and out into those, you pick from the 50, you can come to all 50.
Wow.
And you've got, if you really want conflict resolution, you can have someone do it 3 times or
Yeah,
send
really
different people.
That person's really struggling. We got to make sure we hammer that home.
Yeah, let's make
Yeah.
sure. So that makes it more approachable.
Yeah.
And it makes it something, because not everybody can say, like Aramark sent to us, Aramark Collegiate Hospitality, when they took over the contract July 1st from a 40-year incumbent that had been at Tulane University, they sent all 300 of their staff to us over the summer, most over the summer, a few trickled into the fall. Not everybody can do that, right? And they haven't sent all 300 to us since, because the 300 are off doing what they do daily.
Yeah.
But you may be able to have 5 or 10 people, and that's been something that we've found, that this only works and it's successful is if I train you and then there's some contact again, some brush up, some
Continuing
renewal,
education.
bingo,
Yeah.
and then the other big piece is like middle management's got to buy into it and practice it.
Yeah, I think that encourages the company to continue education for everybody, to get everybody involved, not just one specific department or group. And then also, as you're talking about that secondary touch point, if I, as owner or management of this company, am sending people regularly, I'm going to then go back to, well, that first group hasn't gone in 6 months or a year. What can I send them to? Do I refresh them on what I sent them to, or is there something new now?
Yeah.
I think
That's great.
it gives everyone skin in the game, if you will, of
Completely. And where else should you be trained but at a place that is set up to educate in culinary and hospitality, right? And so it makes sense that we would be the convener in the place. And we have a building big enough to do it. Yeah. So we can have 2 or 3 things or 4 things going on in the building at one time, which is great.
Yeah.
It's like that investment workforce, like just what we were talking about.
Completely.
Investment in your workforce, making them feel heard.
And that's such a big deal for, again, everyone benefits, right? The smallest employee benefits from more education, but the business also benefits from that person feeling included and valued and learning, because they're going to do their job better and they're going to be more invested in the company if they, really want to be there and stay there.
The bottom line is that business is going to do it when it's good for business, and it's good for the bottom line, which I get it. The reason you're in business is to make a profit. I completely understand that. My argument is that this leads to retention, which leads to better business outcomes, right? Because the most expensive thing is churn and burn, right? Is training or going through people or struggling to fill spots or whatever it may be. And we saw that coming out of the pandemic, especially in this industry. Well, a lot of people would complain, well, where did all the workers go? Well, the first thing we got to do is pay a competitive wage. And I think we've right-sized that for the most part. There's still some opportunity for growth there. But the other piece, the missing piece, we believe is this whole training piece, which can lead to investment and retention and the things that we all prize in the workforce. I mean, when I've been at my job now for almost 3 years, I can guarantee you when our board of directors hired me, they expected to retain me for a while. Like they didn't think I'd be there for 6 months or for a year, right? Because that would have been extremely disruptive and extremely expensive for them to go through again to figure out how to replace me.
Yeah, for sure. And the churn and burn, and also then you don't get to see someone develop into further positions, like going up the chain or up the ladder, if you will. And I think that's something else businesses miss out of when they don't invest early.
Right.
Because that person can be a lead or a manager, whatever those upper positions, and then they know all of the roles below them.
Right.
Giving them the opportunity to test it out through a subscription model. Before to know if it's right for them or not.
Completely. Yeah. All the way. Doug Chase sits on our board. The Chase family has always been extremely supportive of NOCHI. They're wonderful, and they're having a big day. Today, I know people are watching this podcast at all different times, but today is Gumbo Desir Day at Dookie Chase, which is the big day, of course. But, they had someone in their kitchen who had been there for a long time and showed a lot of promise, and he came to NOCHI. And so they sent him to NOCHI, and lo and behold, he was our salutatorian and really a bang-up student. Now he's back in their kitchen, but now he's like he's a trained weapon, right? For them as they go forward, right? They can do a lot of things. Like if it expands or goes this chef can now step out and take a lead in a different spot where maybe he wasn't had all the knowledge he needed to do that before.
Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah, it is awesome. So to your point, it's great to train up and
that investment of it was an upfront cost, but like you get that return as you just mentioned of 100%. Like now we can move differently as a company because we have this support. We have this person who we can use.
Correct.
I like to call them Swiss Army knives. Like we've got this really talented person we can use in different ways now.
Yeah, and I mean let's be clear. You can be successful in our industry without training. I mean, some of the best chefs that we have in our city, I think immediately of Justin Duvalier and Susan Spicer for two. Frank Brightson is another. Did not go to culinary school, right? But they are award-winning chefs by every right, But I think Justin would be the first to tell you he and his wife have a scholarship at NOCHI that they give to a deserving student every year because Justin recognized of what he missed out on by not going. And he's like, I wish I had that. And so to your point, it's easier to get from point A to point B with the investment, with the training that's there. Yeah. I think the hard switch for a lot of employers, especially on frontline staff, is if I'm going to invest in you and train you, what's to say you're going to stay here with me and not just jump to my competition or to another venue? And that's a little bit of a leap of faith.
Yeah.
But you also need to just say, you know what, we're in this and we're gonna raise the workforce. And so that rising tide's gonna raise all of us because perhaps, a place that you've worked and you've left, now you're with me, but you got trained there. Yeah. And so you've got to have faith that, it's the right thing to do and you're doing everything you can to keep retention, but that someone else is sweeping their side of the street, which will benefit you too.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, you're right. It's just kind of a risk because I've seen that happen in jobs of like people jumping ship, but after the company does something for them, but it's kind of the name of the game. And I'd rather take that risk of investing in my employee than not, and them leaving. Either way, if an employee wants to leave, they're leaving. They're leaving.
And if you're not invested in them, it's even more of a risk to leave.
Yeah.
And you know what? If you're not a company that wants to invest in it, okay, cool. But that's probably not a company that's going to retain staff.
Right.
That person's probably, if you're not investing in them, that person's probably already saying, what else can I get out of here before I leave?
Right.
Let me do a year so I have a year on my resume to go to XYZ.
Whatever.
Yeah.
That's why I think I like that subscription model you have the most because it kind of it is that constant, I think what happens is if you have something that's a constant, hey, we can keep giving you something, there's something else in your future, you can keep learning, you keep growing in this environment. I think that's the kind of thing that keeps people places.
Right.
And
that's
so
a good point.
That's a really, I think you guys are doing some right things over there.
Well, we're trying. I mean, it's a practice. Let me tell you, it's not perfection. It's not all, tulips and daisies over there all the time. Okay. I mean, it's any other business. I mean, it's sometimes, and I'm feeling it right now. I mean, it's like I'm in a knife fight, right? So somebody else has a gun. So it's like, I got to do what I can do here, right?
Man,
so
getting in there,
it is. And but that's business, right? I mean, that's the way business is, right? I mean, at times you're going to really have to,
fight.
Yeah. What did they call in The Godfather? Go to the mattresses. You're just gonna have to go down and just say, okay, it's that time. I'm gonna roll up my sleeves. We're gonna get this done.
Yeah, you've been walking down the halls in this building.
That's right. That's right. That's right.
If you haven't seen it yet, you'll see it soon.
Yeah.
So far, what feedback or outcomes have you seen from the HIT program?
One of my favorite comments that we got was over training over the summer with Aramark. And it was their staff, and they had been longtime staff of the previous company that had the contract at Tulane. And so think about it. So you're a worker on a university setting. You're hired by a third party. You're maybe back of house where you're cooking, but most are front of house because there's a lot of interaction. Students come in, they want a sandwich, so someone makes a sandwich for them right there, right? So there's some element of front of house that goes there. And we started doing the trainings, and this lady comes up to our trainer and says, "Thank you so much. I've never had anything like this before." And I'm like, wow. I'm like, that's the best endorsement that you can get. Is that, you know, I do feel like people in general take pride in what they do. They want to do a good job at what they're doing. If they're not disheartened or beaten down in what they do, they want to follow through and do things. They're motivated to do that. And you know, this person recognizing that training, never having that opportunity before. And that's not a slight on anyone that it wasn't there before, you know, but that's been the best feedback, you know, and that we've gotten. Sure, I love the fact that Viking's back for the third year and they're this you know, A+ type of experience. That's a worldwide company. That's fabulous that they're still coming to us, and that makes me feel good that they still trust us with the training. But ultimately, like that lady's comment and the comments that we get from people that come to us that said that was really beneficial, or thank you, or still engage with our trainers after they leave, right? And, hey, I had this happen to me at work. What do you think? Or could you, you know, help me with this or guide me through that? Those are the times where you're like, okay, we're on the right path here.
Yeah. Was there anything that you kind of learned that was like more of a learning experience through doing it? Something that you had to make a pivot on while doing the program? Obviously, as you're learning, I mean, there's probably a ton of things. Maybe the biggest.
Yeah.
The biggest thing.
So the biggest thing we learned is that when we tried to start replicating the program, and we're kind of in this stage right now. So like, I just want to be clear, like we haven't figured this out totally, right? I mean, we know we're rolling this out, but as far as like a pliable business model that's out there, that's working, that's successful, we're still like grinding and turning the gears as we go. We think we're on the right path, but you know, Viking's model is the one that we obviously we did first and we based it on. But Viking's model is an onboarding model where they're onboarding a large number of staff annually. And that's just not everybody's model. So everybody's not onboarding a large number of annual staff. And so that's where the subscription idea came from, is like, okay, if we're not going to churn and burn on ongoing, what can we do to upskill, right? And not everybody wants to spend tons of dollars every month on long, you know, 3, 4, 5 day long, full day, 12-hour day trainings. And so what's the other piece that's missing? That's there, you know. And I think the other thing is like feedback on exactly what do we want to train. Like I went to something actually. The Mayor's Office of Neighborhood Engagement in New Orleans did something not long after the terrorist attack for people in the hospitality industry of what can you do to recognize, you know, something that looks out of place, you know, that may be danger. And so like we should train on that, right? I mean, that should be something that unfortunately, right? I mean, you know, for a while, and I feel like it's ebbed a little bit, but like, you know, active shooter training was common. That was something that people would know, you know, what to do. And these are tough things to talk about, right? Not fun things to talk about, but you have the knowledge and you at least feel armed as you go. So I think part of it is feedback as to what's offered, but also like what's the model that fits business the best, you know, from the time, because someone's got to be paid to be there. Frequently, like I'm sitting here doing this podcast with you. I'm paid to do this podcast because I'm a salaried employee.
No, you're not
paying. Hey,
listen. You know, don't get it twisted out there, folks.
Right,
you know?
right. But think about it. Think about it. I'm a salaried employee. This is part of my day, part of my job. Yeah. But if I'm punching a clock, right, and I'm coming to get training, is my employer going to punch that clock for me, or am I going to punch the clock and I'm going to get paid? Like we insist.
Right.
You need to pay people while they're being trained.
Yeah.
Right? Because then what's the motivation to show up? No, I'm going to go do my shift.
Yeah.
You know, no, I need to get my hours in this week. Right?
Yeah. It's an investment.
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's awesome.
No doubt. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mean, this has been fantastic. I mean, the last thing we just want to, you know, make sure that everyone hears about is if they are like from Ochsner or like the Ochners out there or the people wanting to get involved in the program, what's the best way for people that have been inspired by this and want to get involved? What's the best way for them to do that?
So go to our website, right? So NOCHI.org, NOCHI.org. There is a section for hospitality investment training, HIT as we call it, but there's also sections on everything else that we do. And of course, our contact information is there. So my contact information is up there, as well as some of our instructors and folks that do different things within the HIT program and outside of it. And so that's a great way to get engaged. I always tell people we love to give tours. We love to get people on campus. The building's beautiful. Our chefs are making food daily. You know, we enjoy family meal every day. So it's a great way to kind of walk through and see what's going on. We're located downtown, right off of Harmony Circle. For those that may not realize, that's the new name for the old Lee Circle. So we're right on Howard and Carondelet. So we're just right on the edge of downtown, and great 90,000 square foot building, a great campus. And we encourage folks to come see us.
That's a beautiful building.
It is a beautiful building. It is a beautiful building. And we have a pop-up coming up, I should say.
We love pop-ups.
So our students have just had a jury process, and the winner has been East African. Jessica, what's the name again? You're going to have to help me.
Walimo.
Thanks. Say it again.
Walimo.
Wow. So literally this is only a couple days old.
East
So you
African.
can say East
Wow,
African.
okay.
So Walimo is the name of our new restaurant that will open up at the end of May, beginning of June. So we don't even have a menu up yet.
Okay.
Wow.
But we will have reservations opening.
Okay. Well, you got me there. I'll tell you that much. I love East African. I mean, I've only had, I think, like Ethiopian, but a little bit of Somali, but yeah.
Well, this is going to be approachable too for those that may not be as
Okay.
adventurous.
All right.
Because I know there's a lot of people East African. What is that, right? So I mean, it will be familiar and approachable.
Cool. Awesome.
As well. Yeah.
Yeah, I love it. All right.
Sweet.
You guys ready to?
You got a hot question for us?
We got a hot question at the end here.
Oh, okay.
Speaking of pop-ups,
yeah.
All right.
if you were to have your own pop-up, what would you sell and what would you call it?
Ooh. Okay, I'm bad at names, so I don't know what I would call it.
Yeah, maybe we would just start with the food.
I think I would love to be able to do a pasta pop-up. Like, that's a lot
Nice.
to be able to, like, travel with.
Yeah.
But, man, like, even if it was just, like, a mac and cheese and you could load it, like, that would be it.
Cool, like just a mac and cheese, like, variety pop-up. Oh, okay, I love it. What about you, Gerald?
So I appreciate the grace that you didn't come to me first. However, I had an answer ready. So I'm a Cuban food fanatic. Just absolutely love it. Miss Laborio's, for anyone that remembers Laborio's when it was on downtown on Camp Street. And I'm a huge picadilla fan, which is not the most common dish that most people know, ropa vieja.
Yeah.
To go from there. So I would definitely do some type of Cuban pop-up. Love the culture, love the people, love the food. Yeah. And I guess I would just call it Cubano. I mean, what else?
All right, Cubano.
There's got to be something better. Maybe just picadilla, right? Maybe call it that.
Pick your dia.
There you go. There you go.
I like it,
All right.
Man, all right. Well, this one has been in my mind for a while because I feel like there's not enough rice paper spring roll options. Like they're always just kind of like you go to a Vietnamese restaurant, you get the kind of standard, but there's not a lot of variety and there's just so much versatility, with like using the rice paper spring roll and just kind of putting all kinds of different things in it. And one of the things that I've always loved doing is, and I saw this on TikTok, classic TikTok coming in our lives, but a recipe where you actually take those, you make the spring roll, and then you kind of fry it on both sides, and you get this like crispy crunch on the outside.
I know what you're talking about.
And I'm like, and those things are so good because you get that crunch, you get that freshness, and you get that, that
warm and cool
factor at the same time.
Yeah.
And there's so much you can do. I mean, shout out to Fanola out there in Metairie, but they were the first ones that did a spring roll, like a deep fried spring roll inside of a fresh spring roll, and so you got that like you got that like heat on the in the inside and then the cool on the outside. And so if I could do that, like all these different varieties of spring rolls, that's what I would do, And so that's what I don't know what I'd call them, probably something like roll them up, hit them up, call yourself a spring roll. I don't know, something like that. We'll think.
We'll keep working on the name. I'm sold on the plan.
Roll them up, boys. That's maybe what I'll call.
We'll call them fall rolls. Instead of spring rolls, they're fall rolls. Something.
Yeah.
I don't know. Who knows?
Roll your
boat.
There you go.
Yeah, all right. I like that's teamwork for you right there.
That's it. A little brainstorming right here live. Right there we go. Come on.
I love it. Well, thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me. It's been fabulous. Thank you.
It's been great hearing about the program.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to Missions Bayou, powered by Comfy Stone. If you enjoyed this episode, be sure to follow the podcast wherever you listen. And if you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe and drop a comment, letting us know your thoughts and who you'd like to hear from next. We'll see y'all next time.